Students, we are given this question. A particle is fired straight up from the ground to reach a height of s feet in t seconds, where s of t is 128t negative 16t squared. Now, we are given two requirements. First, we have to find the maximum height. Okay, maximum height we need to find. And then we are expected to find the velocity when the particle hits the ground. So two important requirements are there. Now imagine a particle is traveling. Okay, this is a particle which is traveling. Now if this is ground level, okay, this is ground, the particle is traveling and it reaches the maximum height. From here it reaches the maximum height. Now after it has reached its maximum height, the particle will have to come down, right? When it has reached its maximum height, it cannot go further, so it has to come down. So it has to stop there. So when it stops there, the velocity of the particle becomes zero there. So the maximum height can only be achieved when the velocity is zero. So we can write that. So for the particle, you can write the statement: to reach the maximum height, to reach the maximum height, its velocity should be equal to zero. We know that WKT stands for we know that S of t is equal to 128t negative 16t squared. So this is actually the height or the distance traveled by the particle. Now V of t is found by ds over dt, by differentiating this quantity. So that's going to be 128 negative 32t. This is my velocity. Now since velocity has to be zero for maximum height, we take this to be equal to zero. So this implies 128 negative 32t is equal to 0. So that means 128 is equal to 32t. This in turn implies t is equal to 128 divided by 32. Now 32 divides 128 4 times. So therefore t is equal to 4. So after 4 seconds the particle reaches its maximum height. You can write that after 4 seconds the particle reaches its maximum height. Okay, now what is the maximum height? Suppose you want to know the maximum height, because that is the requirement. Okay, substituting, how are you going to get it? By substituting t is equal to 4 in 1. Calculating, you will find that the maximum height would be 512 negative 256, which would give you 256 feet. Okay, so this is the maximum height. Now you are asked to find the velocity. Find the velocity when the particle hits the ground. Okay, you have to know that. So how are you going to find that velocity when the particle hits the ground? Now we know that V of t, so that's going to be 128 negative 32t. So this is for the velocity. Now when the particle hits the ground, say the particle is coming, after reaching its maximum height, the particle comes and it drops down. So clearly S of t, or in other words the distance, is going to be equal to 0, right? The height is going to be equal to 0. So we have to use that concept. So S is going to be, S of t is going to be equal to 0 here. So when the particle, you can write the statement, when the particle hits the ground, the distance is 0. So this would mean that S of t is equal to 0. So this means 128t negative 16t squared is equal to 0. If I were to take t out, I would have t of 128 negative 16t to be equal to 0. Now from here t is equal to 0 or 128 is equal to 16t. Okay. Now 16 divides 128, so I can rewrite this as t is equal to 128 divided by 16. Okay, 6 8s are 48, 4, so 8 1s are 8. Okay, 16 divides 128 8 times, so t is equal to 0 or t is equal to 8. So these two information I've got, so substitute t is equal to 8. When t is equal to 8, I'm using this page. When t is equal to 8, if I were to take this as say some 3, therefore the 3 would be rewritten as v of 8 after 8 seconds. This is going to be equal to 128 negative, I substitute t is equal to 8. So 8 times 2 is 16, 1, 8 3s are 24, 25. So I get 128 negative 256. So that is going to give me negative 128. And its velocity, so you have to write feet per second because that is the unit that's been used in the question. So this will be the final answer. When s is equal to 0,